What's up, everybody? This is Trey Alexander. I am finally coming out of um, quarantine. So, I'm here to talk about COVID-19, coronavirus, what it feels like. They give the general symptoms online, and if you feel those things, they're a little different than normal. So, the fever, the tiredness, the dry cough, um, the shortness of breath, that kind of stuff doesn't feel like normal. Um, but I'm going to try to put it into my best words to tell you what it feels like. Let me do this opening statement too. Most hospitals will not test you if you appear young and healthy, even if you have symptoms. And you need to be aware of that. I learned that myself by going to one of the Northside hospitals at the first onset of my symptoms. They will tell you to go home and self-treat. They will recommend that you treat it like a cold or a flu, and they will caution you to quarantine yourself to prevent someone with immune challenges from getting ill. I'm going to talk about my timeline of COVID symptoms and what they feel like. But the purpose of this is a 3-part video series. It's this message right here, Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That's the purpose of me giving you these videos, to educate you on what it feels like so you're equipped on how to fight it, both physically and mentally, and in the spirit realm, so you're also equipped. My one request through this whole thing, though, is this. This is my testimony. Either believe the word of God or don't believe it at all. Either believe it all or don't believe it at all. The CDC reports the onset of COVID-19 symptoms start between 2 and 14 days of exposure. The most common symptoms they report are fever, tiredness, and dry cough. Severe symptoms include heavy or continuous dry cough, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, confusion or inability to arouse, bluish lips or face, and difficulty breathing. This is when you know you have a moderate or severe case of it, which I did. So, for many, this virus is mild, and it's almost laughable because your immune system is so strong. And God bless you if that's you, and you don't have to worry about going into moderate or severe symptoms. But for those who have immune challenges, this virus is going to feel like the flu and pneumonia. It honestly, if I could put it into words, if it goes moderate or severe, it feels like the flu and pneumonia came together to have a baby, and they tried to drown you with it. That's literally what it feels like. So if you're blessed with a strong immune system, count it all joy, but please stay home, because even if you have it, there are other people out there who really, their bodies are already challenged, and this is going to be more difficult than just a sore throat or just a dry cough or just a mild fever. On March 19th, there was a guy, I was doing a Lyft ride. Yeah, my fault, right? And of course, that's very close quarters. But I had 2 passengers, actually 3 passengers. Now that I think about it, there was another woman coughing and hacking away. There were 3 passengers who coughed and sneezed in the car. But the last one really got to me for some reason, because he looked deathly ill, and I tried to brush it off. I didn't really think much of it, but I just kept going. But that was my bad, though, because I did have a moment of fear within myself, and I'll talk about that in video 3, why that was my bad. On March 24th, I began to get a sore throat and a low-grade fever. And at first, I chalked the sore throat up to like possible sinus drainage and stuff like that. I mean, it is pollen season. Dogwoods usually kind of irritate me. So, I dealt with the symptoms of the week prior of like a minor sinus infection. So my immune system was already kind of compromised when the onset of these things started happening. That's why it's very important for you to know your body, number one. When you've been challenged by a disease for so long, you recognize when something comes along that's unfamiliar. My body temperature, for me, generally, my normal body temperature is between 97.1 and 97.6 degrees. So anything above 99 usually tells me I'm fighting either a virus or an infection, especially if it goes up 2 and 3 degrees in a short period of time. So the week prior, my immune system was compromised. It was weakened from a sinus infection. But on March 24th at 2 a.m., I checked my temperature and it was 98.1. So it wasn't bad. I just started feeling that sore throat and some other symptoms. And so I kind of pre-panicked and checked my temp. But by March 25th at 9:58 p.m., not even 24 hours, I was at 100 degrees, and that was with Tylenol within 24 hours. Um, so the fever and the sore throat and the fatigue from all of that began to set in. The weird thing is, and I recorded these temperatures in my Kinza app. Kinza app is a thermometer that actually links to your phone and it will record those things. It's also, I want to say it's backed by well, I won't say that it's backed by the CDC, but I know they partner with them on information. And so as COVID symptoms come up, or as you put symptoms into the app, or as your temperature goes up and things like that, it'll ask you if you have any other symptoms, and then it gives you recommendations based on what you're personally going through. The typical infection of a sore throat, though, like when it's an infection or sinus infection or sinus cold or something like that, for me personally, it's usually on one side of my throat. And that's how I know it's drainage or an infection. Usually it's on my right side. But this sore throat, it was different. It didn't feel like an infection. It felt like my throat was closing. And I've never had anaphylactic shock, but I would almost say there was a couple times where I thought I was going into anaphylactic shock because it was like the air would get right into the middle of my throat and just stop there. So with the fever, my muscles started feeling fatigued, and it got really hard going up and down stairs. If I walked to the edge of my driveway, I could barely squeak, or started getting dizzy spells or shortness of breath. My stools got loose for only about a day or two. It was like they were trying to go there, but thankfully it didn't go all the way there. And this started to kind of remind me of pneumonia in the past, especially because the grip on my lungs, which I'll talk about that here in a second, was the big indicator for me. There was a lot of pain there. And remember, those who have immune challenges, this virus is going to feel like a combination of pneumonia and the flu. Everyone's body's going to react different, with the exception of the most common symptoms being fever, cough, and shortness of breath. By March 28th, I was only sleeping between 2 and 4 hours a night. I recorded an 8-minute video of myself trying to breathe through it all to sleep. The virus does not respond to nasal sprays, to traditional nasal sprays. It does not respond. My breathing in this video stopped 7 times out of 8 minutes, almost on the minute every minute. And it would awaken me, and of course, it was causing me to try to tilt my head and use nasal sprays in my inhaler to breathe. My chest also felt heavy and full of pressure. My nose, and this is one big indicator right here, your nose and your throat. My nose felt like I was being held underwater. It didn't feel like an infection where it was, stuffy, runny. There was no runny. It was totally dry, and there was a partial airway as if I should have been able to breathe, but I felt like somebody was holding my head underwater the entire time. It seemed as if air, like I said, stopped right in the middle of my throat, and it was like my throat closed to keep it from getting to the rest of my body. And by Sunday, the 29th, my lungs felt as if someone reached their hands into my back and my sides and just squeezed my lungs with all their might. Every breath for me felt heavy or short, and sleep was nearly impossible for 3 to 4 days at its peak. My cough was dry, but it's bearable. Some experiences are different, so some people's cough is continuous, and it's so continuous that it's choking. Thankfully for me, my cough didn't get there, but it was just very dry. There was an onset of body aches, especially in my back, like under my deltoid area, and in my stomach and my sides near my ribs. Remember, some of the virus can mirror image the flu. This is why hospitals send you home and tell you to treat the symptoms as a cold and flu. Once the virus gets to your stomach, and that's really where you want to get it to as fast as possible, because that's when you know it's at the tail end of it, it starts to feel prickly, gassy, and unsettled. It's really an uncomfortable feeling. Honestly, it's because the acid in your stomach is trying to kill off the virus. It's weird. You can feel it. It's so bizarre. But the inflammation increases too. So the inflammation in your back and your stomach and in your sides will increase. But that's how you know it's coming to its end. I will say, here's the positive, and I hate to sound like such a dude, but most days I still did have an appetite, and that was really important for me. So I was thankful to have that. But here's the priorities: stay hydrated, keep your mind fed with positive affirmations, shower in high heat or steam when possible, plenty of vitamins, especially vitamin C's and immune boosting vitamins, and eat plenty of fruits and vegetables that are immune boosting. Get rest, get plenty of rest. And I know it's hard to rest when you can't breathe. I know. In my next video, I'm going to give you all the physical tips that I can on how to wage war against this thing. And in my last and most important video, I'm going to tell you how God led me to overcome it. It is real. There is no vaccine. There aren't enough beds in hospitals for everyone who would need them if we don't stop the spread. It is highly contagious. And if we do not quarantine, we will overwhelm the hospitals and they will break down. Hospitals don't have all the answers yet, but God does. And for someone like me who's challenged by a deviated septum and allergy-induced asthma, this could have been devastating or led to my death. But the Word of God says, we shall overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. So in my next 2 videos, I'm going to give you the ammo that you need to overcome.